welcome to Playback, everyone. My name is Brandon.
My name is Nate.
And this is the show, of course, where two music producers, that's us, take turns picking albums to discuss. And this week, my friend Nady here has chosen the album Teen Dream by Beach House.
That's right.
So, Nate, what is Teen Dream and Porqué? Why, which is German for why did you pick this album?
Yeah, so Teen Dream is a record from 2010 by the Baltimore dream pop / shoegaze duo Beach House, made up of Victoria Legrand and Alex Scally, and like a drummer who's on here, but I don't think is like a member of the band. I think they have a drummer now, but it's somebody
recently
else.
Added a third member who is a drummer, but that is not the person
on this
who played drums on this album. And I think actually there were two drummers on this album.
Yes, yeah, drummer / kind of drum programmers.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to parse while listening, like which is which actually. But
the band is two people.
Yes,
Alex Scally plays guitar, does some background vocals, and maybe some keyboard instruments too. And then Victoria Legrand, singer, keyboard player.
Yeah. So, it's a very, dreamy, ethereal kind of wistful album. It's very pretty. It's also, hey, we should make note. It's the first album that even features a woman on this show.
Yes, we're finally talking about music that was made by a female person for the first time.
So I mean, I've loved this band for forever. I actually saw them on the Teen Dream tour when this album came out in 2010. I was living in Boston at the time. I had just arrived. Actually, I might have seen them in 2009 even. But I had just moved to Boston to go to Berkeley, the music school. It was an album that found me at the perfectly wrong / right time. I think I was a really hard time in my life.
Oh, you're super sensitive boy at this time? I guess,
yeah. I was just really struggling with my first year in college, and this album had just came out, and I really latched onto it. It really because yes, it is kind of sad, but it's kind of more. I think it's more complex than that. The emotional kind of range that it shows on this album. It's mostly just very it's a very beautiful album. It's very lush. But it is kind of deceptively lush. It does have this. I think it has this very big sound. But when you kind of get really granular with it, when you really listen to the individual pieces going on, it's actually very simple, what's happening on musically on the album. And I mean from the parts they're playing, the parts they're programming, to even how much is going on. It sounds like 1,000 things at once, but it's probably 4, right? It is kind of like a masterclass in minimalism, really, I really love it for that. But I got to see them play live at the Paradise Rock Club in Boston. I actually got to meet them after the show, which
that's cool.
Just remembering. It was really cool. I mean, I didn't say anything to them, but I just said, "Wow, I really like you guys," and they're like, "Great." That was the extent of my swag at the time.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I picked this because genuinely is just one of my favorite albums that's come out since I left high school, probably. And one of my favorite bands. I'm just so into this band. I've got to see them a couple times. And yeah, they're just kind of they're pure artists. They're kind of nerds about art. They don't have a very huge public persona. I really like that they kind of just put out music and they let the music speak for them, which I think is really cool. But Yeah, I mean, I wanted to, especially after our conversation on Tame Impala, I kind of wanted to pick something around the same time period, but something that could be kind of thought of in the same breath, but is actually very different.
Yeah.
That one being kind of like this, that one being one person and being kind of like an exercise in perfection and kind of a mastery of one side of things, and this kind of being, well, it's two people, and it is there's a little more give and take. There's kind of a different set of priorities being followed for an album like this than that one.
Yeah. If Tame Impala is like a demonstration of like one creativity by one mind, like really distilled into a bottle, and here it is, then this Beach House, this is probably like what is collaboration between a duo, two people distilled down into a bottle, and here you go.
Yeah, and they really do, like, the more you listen to their records, the more you really get the sense that, like, they are two people and they are very complementary. They do different things, but, like, it is just, like, one single, like, creative vision. Like, they're so, like, in lockstep on, like, what is Beach House? What is the sound? Like, how are the songs written? Like, I watched an hour interview with them, with Anthony Fantano today. And it's crazy. Like, they just, like, they are so, like, locked in together. And it was like a recent interview from like 2 years ago too. So it's like them talking about like their like 7th or 8th album or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like they are synchronized.
Unified.
Yeah.
Synchronized, unified, of one mind. They like, and I've seen this too, like when they're in interviews, you know, they are each one person who's, you know, speaking their own mind, but like there's almost a sense of like where it doesn't even really matter which one of them is answering the question, because you're getting the same answer.
Yeah. And I agree. Yeah, like I think with Victoria, she's a little more like artsy, like left-brained, kind of wild, you know, very like a little more like scatterbrained in the best way. Like she is like a very very like right-brained. Right. Whereas so is Alex Scally, but only like slightly less so, maybe. like his, you know, when he's like talking about the bands and stuff, he's like a little more direct, whereas she is a little more like obtuse about things. But you know, yeah, they really are. It's a very beautiful and it's like a perfect pairing. It's like I think they've actually described themselves as like musical soulmates, and I'm like, yeah, man, like I hear it. Right. Like it's like very evident.
That is pretty telling that they've been active for so long and making music for so long. And I mean, unless I'm unaware of it, neither one of them has ever made a solo album.
No, I don't think so.
Which is usually something that duos will do. And speaking of duos, you know, and we'll get into this more later, but you know,
this is from the age of the duo too, like the 2000s, 2010s. This was like when really the 2000s, like was like when duos were like the shit. You had the White Stripes, you had Black Keys, you had the Kills, you have Beach House. I'm probably forgetting a bunch, but there was a lot of them.
But even that there are that many notable ones. Keen, you remember Keen?
Yeah. I don't, but I said yes. I do that.
It's a duo.
Okay.
I said yes, but I don't.
We have Penny Real.
Right, yeah. I was in a male-female duo at the time, and you and I are in a male-male duo now, you know, our band, Black Market Dub. But, and we'll, you know, get into this, into the finer points of this throughout this discussion, but it is interesting to kind of show that, you know, the process of making music, it's not only just that dynamic between, okay, either you're Tame Impala doing it by yourself, or there's multiple people and it's a group and it's a team. Like music, when it's being made by two people, really is its own sort of universe and its own like unique dynamic. And it's not the same as when you're by yourself, and it's not the same when the group is bigger than two people.
it's weirdly like more intimate than when it's like one person. Like it feels really like personal when it's just two. Like think about like the White Stripes, like as much as they're like this like hard rock, cool blues rock band, it's like some of their music is like really sentimental and like, they were married and they said they were brother and sister. It was just like all this stuff to like implying like how close they were. And they were actually even closer than anyone knew. It is weird. It is like a weirdly intimate style of music or style of band, I guess I should say, to have two people.
And just the experience of being in a group like that and the process of creating like that is unique.
It is.
Speaking for myself, I've been in many, many bands. I've made music that I'm the only person involved, and I've played in a bunch of bands where there's 12 people, 10 people, 4 people, 5 people, and a lot of my time I've spent in working in duos where there's 2 people, and it's so different. It's so unique, and it's like a special. It's special. Like I like it the most. I think it's the most fun. It's the most intimate.
You still get all the benefits of collaboration, but since there's not like an overwhelming amount of band members, you also have like a ton of autonomy, right? Like,
right.
It's like half the time, like when we're working together, it's like I will build the foundations of a track and I'll do whatever I want with it. I'll make a whole track and then I just give it to you and I say, okay, now it's your turn to just do what you want to do with it, right? And then by the end, we have something that is a black market song.
You know what it is, man?
That's like, just our process, but
yeah, but it's similar to what it's like in other duos too.
Yeah,
and when you're in a duo, there's so much trust involved. There's so much this agreement that's similar to a marriage. Where it's like I am relying on you, and when we're working, it's like I need to pay close attention to how I'm behaving because this other person relies completely on me. I'm the only other partner in this,
right?
That this other person has. If I drop the ball, this person has no partner.
Right.
There isn't another partner to rely on.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I for one always felt that way whenever I would see you and Joanne play, which was Brandon's band Penny Reel, which is the duo he's talking about, which was like, Joanne is this like amazing singer. And then you have this, really virtuosic, fantastic musician that kind of allows her to shine in a way. And that's always how I felt about when I would see you guys, it was just like kind of a match made in heaven. It was wonderful.
Yeah, really. It's been a really cool experience getting into Beach House because listening to this album for this episode, this is my first introduction to Beach House at all. I never listened to them at all before. And it's been a really sort of special experience because it is like the more that I learn about them, the more that I see me and Joanne, my experience of all those years that I spent in a male-female musical duo together. And it's a really unique relationship. Especially when you have that musical connection where you're musical soulmates, like they say, and we were too. And there is not a romantic dynamic to the relationship, which is a little bit different than like the White Stripes, where they were husband and wife.
Right.
But when you have that and there isn't one, I don't know. It's unique and it's very special, and it makes me miss making music with Joanne a lot because when that person isn't in your life, there isn't like a substitute for it. There is no other relationship like that.
Right. And it's tough. It's like I feel like these kind of duos, they come along once and it's not like you're going to go meet some other girl who's going to become a songwriting partner with you. Like it's tough. It's harder than it probably seems, but it is like it's like a special thing. And I think Alex and Victoria in Beach House like clearly recognized that, and they recognized it from like the day they met. Was
they're
like
very aware. They're very thankful for it. They consider themselves lucky. They use the word lucky to describe themselves so much. Yeah.
You know, it had not even occurred to me that I didn't even think about Joanne when I picked this, and you, like, I didn't think about that really. But it's kind of awesome to hear that was one of your takeaways from listening to this. But yeah, what was how about, I would love to hear, you've never heard this before, you've never listened to this band before. What was your first impression listening to Teen Dream?
Yeah, so I really felt like, you know, like I was arriving late to a party. You know, the more that I learn about this, it's like, wow, this was a really big deal when it came out, and it just, I don't know. I think that during this time, the time around 2010, I must have really kind of been avoiding the whole indie scene, I think. And I think I was really annoyed by it.
Sure.
At the time. You know,
I get that, because they were like, a lot of this band in particular, I think I mentioned to you before, they're like Pitchfork, like darlings. Like they are, and Pitchfork, your mileage may vary with that magazine. I almost said rag, because I'm of two minds on that.
Say what is Pitchfork for those who may not know?
Pitchfork is like a indie music blog magazine. Very, very popular, very like big, like kind of tastemakers in the music industry, but they are like notorious for being like very snooty, very snotty, very like hoity-toity, kind of like hipster, big time. Like they are like the hipster magazine. Like that is what they are.
Yeah.
And so it's tough. Like there's a lot of stuff that like I love that they trash, right? And then there's a lot of stuff that they love that I'm like, give me a fucking break, dude. Like, no, thank you. But this is one of the few artists, this is one of the very few artists where their love for this artist and almost their like overpraise for this artist, I'm like, yeah, I get it. Like, they're fucking awesome. They're a great band. They're great artists. Like,
yeah.
Like it actually, we sync up on that. But there's a lot of stuff that Pitchfork champions or shits on that I'm just like, get the fuck, like Pitchfork, there's no other like music industry publication that has like pissed me off more consistently during my life probably than Pitchfork. They're so annoying, like the things that they choose to like champion, like it or don't, like it can be really annoying. But yeah, this is one that I think they got it right. Like they've generally been consistently correct on this band's output.
Yeah, I think it says a lot. So I'll just say now, I fucking love this album. I think it's amazing, and I'm really, really glad. I'm really grateful that you picked it. This was really the only way that I was going to find this and get educated on this and really actually take the time to give it as close of a objective listen as I can, you know, as objectively as I can listen to anything, which is what I try to do for these. So yeah, if we didn't do it for this show, it was never going to happen. And I'm so glad that you picked it, because I really, really like this. And I think it says a lot that I can enjoy listening to an album like this in this style of music all the way through and really enjoy it, because this style of music is generally not really my thing.
I was worried you were not going to like this, actually, because I kind of was aware of that. I was like, this is way more something I would be into, not something that I really thought you would be into.
This genre, whatever you call it, is generally, I don't like it.
I almost had the thought, I was like, I have to stop picking stuff that's like actually near and dear to my heart for the show, because I can't take it if Brandon like shits on it.
This is terrible.
Or that if it's some,
and let
some
me tell
stuff,
you why.
Right.
Yeah.
Some stuff is hard to be objective about, but that is kind of what we're trying to do with this. Like
a lot of the stylistically similar music to this, really pisses me off. Because I really feel that this genre, this like indie, like, kind of more emotional, softer edge, indie rock scene is full of just performative crap, in my opinion. Stuff that is just like overly unnecessarily indulging in the emotional states that we're feeling to a performative degree to try to get some kind of social currency by showing off how feely I am. And it just fucking annoys me. Because, and I'll get more into this later when we look closer into the content of this album, because I really do want to point out why I like it so much and why it's so fucking legit. And it really is the real deal. This is. And this is not that performative crap, and I really appreciate it. But it pisses me off when people are overly performative about it, because I feel like they're discounting the value of that real emotional acknowledgement that music can be the greatest gift to all of us for. I feel like they're robbing the bank, you know, and leaving the hungry on the street to go poor because they capitalized on something, they cashed in on something, and now there's none left of the real shit for the rest of us. Does that make sense?
I completely agree with you. And even though like I picked this, I couldn't agree with you more in that like this genre, this style, and I don't mean dream pop. I actually love dream pop, but dream pop is like a genre that's kind of been around for a long time. But I more mean like what you're saying, like this kind of the indie scene of these kinds of bands generally, drive me fucking crazy because it's almost like I feel like we've talked about this before where it's like a lot of artists just like have a bunch of sad songs because it's like you get the feeling that they're like supposed to, like like they're just like, well, like what else do you write about? Like I'll just write about being sad or something like that. Like it's because they want to have like a repertoire of like a certain feeling, and it does. It just feels disingenuous. It just doesn't. I don't believe you. Like I just don't believe you.
Look, there's a lot of like emotional cash grabs out there. Okay, because music is a business, and if you make money that is if you make music that is successful, you get money.
Emotional cash grab is my new favorite term.
This stuff is an emotion. Look, at most innocent, it's just unimaginative. At best, but at worst, at most cynical, dude, it is essentially. It's an attempt to ride a bandwagon of capitalizing on people's like most weak and vulnerable moments. You know what I mean? Like there are people out there experiencing hard times and weaker moments and emotional pain at times, and you're gonna capitalize on that. And it's sort of like it's like an artistic version of like predatory business practices by like insurance companies and like pharmaceutical companies. Like, oh shit, this person needs pills, and they have no option. They have to have them, so I'll just charge as much fucking money as I possibly can. You know what I mean?
I love this argument.
It's like, like oh, I know how I can make my career in music work. Let me just fucking do something to just tug on people's heartstrings irresponsibly, and I'll just base my career on that. It's like it's disgusting to me.
It's almost, I feel the same way about like artists that like make music that panders like directly to like 11-year-olds, and it's like really like basic emotional stuff, but it'll like hook like 11-year-old girls specifically. And then it's just like, you just ride that to the fucking bank, dude. Like, and there's like a million artists like that.
If you're capitalizing on what makes 11-year-olds like joyful and like want to like have fun with their friends and like listen to at a birthday party or something, like, okay, how bad is that? That's capitalizing off the good times that 11-year-olds are feeling. But if what you're capitalizing is the weakest, saddest moments
Right.
You see what I mean?
I do. Yeah. I get what you mean.
Because music has this big opportunity to like really alleviate something and like be cathartic and like be healing in those moments, but that's not what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're taking their money is what you're doing. Yeah. So I say all that to mean that Beach House Teen Dream is not that. This is legit. This is the real deal. This is like actually allowing ourselves to candidly sit with the truth of our emotions as they actually are. And it's beautiful. It's amazing. Right. Because it's like, you said something earlier, which was like, the sound and the vibe of this album is sad, but it's more complex than that. And it sort of made me realize that, so yes, that is absolutely true. And it sort of makes me realize that like this album is sort of like showing me that like, that even sadness itself is even more complex than that. There's more to that emotion of feeling sad than just, oh, I feel sad, end of story. There's more dimensions to it, and they actually go there. They actually do explore that, and it's not bullshit. It's real. It feels true. Yeah.
Like it's a sadness that is complex. It's a sadness that is intermingled with a lot of like effervescent, like kind of joyousness too. Like it's very interesting. It's a very wide spectrum. I think this album is kind of hard to pin down to like one emotional point, but it is kind of it is all, it's like all those things. Like it's
it evades like trying to simplify it. You try to grab it, and but you can never grab all of it when you try to do that.
Yeah. I mean, I've always felt like this album, putting this album on, it's always made me feel like it's like because the moment I heard it, it made me feel nostalgic, right? I listen to it now and I feel nostalgic for like when I was listening to it for the first time. Like I think about that time period, but like even when it came out, it was like, I remember feeling like it's the kind of nostalgia and like beauty, like this album is like very pretty, and it's pretty in the way that like the first time you get invited into like a girl's bedroom that you really like, and you're just like, wow, like this is such like a portal into this person's
like a surreal experience.
Yes, surreal.
It's been so built up in your mind.
Yeah. Surreal, and like and you're just, it's like an unbelievable feeling of like oh my God, there's so much like depth to this person that I really like, and I like them even more now.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Right.
And also just like
sort of seeing the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Of a person. I see. Yeah.
Right. And like just like a beauty that is like you're unfamiliar with. Like it's like, oh my God, I didn't know that like I as like a guy like would be so like enraptured or like entranced by just being in like someone else's space. You know what I mean? Like because I remember that feeling vividly as like a teenager of just like, wow, like
and the realities of it, like the mundane parts of it are like even more sort of
fascinating.
Yeah, like, oh my God, she leaves her dirty clothes on the floor.
Yeah.
I would have never thought that she leaves her dirty clothes.
Like she has a journal. Like what's in there? Like
her
oh,
bed
she like
isn't made.
Yeah.
Wow. Like just that detail. Like I don't even know. I don't even know what to make it. It just tells me so many like complex detail in such an insight into this person.
Yeah.
It's like not what I expected. Yeah.
It is like
amazing.
It's like a beauty. It's like a beauty that is like you're completely foreign to until now, and now you're just like, wow, like it's amazing. And that is kind of, I think that is kind of where my head was at when I first heard it. Was just like, it just reminded me of all the like probably exes I missed still. But but now it makes me nostalgic for just that time period. I think a little bit of like Boston maybe or something. I don't know. But like nostalgia is like another big thing on this. Like,
It is.
I don't really know how. I don't know how you pull off making intentionally nostalgic music, but they do it really well. I don't really understand how that mechanically works.
That question, right? How musicologically, how do you accomplish that? Like, what combination of notes do you need to play in what order to make that emotion happen, right? Dude, I've been thinking about that because so our next episode of this show, we are going to have our first guest, and we're going to be talking about a band, an artist that is another one that accomplishes that very same thing with their music sometimes. And our guest is a very musicologically intelligent person.
We should ask him.
That's why I'm freaking out about how you're asking this question and about Beach House right now, is because that is one of the that is the burning question that I want to ask our guest.
That's awesome.
Like, that feeling of like I'm standing at the high school prom,
especially when the lyrics aren't like directly commenting on that. Right. They're like it's like
it's in the music. It's in what the guitar is playing. It's in what the keyboard and the drums are playing. It's not in the lyrics. It's so I don't even know what, but hopefully we get an answer to that.
Yeah, it's like an aural, impressionistic painting. Right?
Yes.
It's like an impression. It's like an impression of something through music that somehow translates to nostalgia, and it's not just that you're remembering when it came out either. Because for me, this album was brand new to me in 2010, and yet all I could think about while listening to it was like the past love and like my past, right? Like
right.
So it's kind of like a remarkable achievement, and I don't even think it's one that they like set out to do, but it is. They do it. You know, it happened.
That note we're going to come back to that. Where you just said that you don't know if they set out to do it, because that is one of my favorite things that appreciate about Beach House and their approach to songwriting has to do with that. And I'll talk about that later when we get into the songwriting part, but. I'm also glad that you brought up lyrics too, because my final note on like my my impressions of listening to this album. Last thing I want to say is that so you know how I'm a big lyrics guy.
Yes.
You know, most folks who watch our stuff and listen to our stuff will know. Generally, I'm always the one going like being amazed at how little little attention Nate pays to the lyrics. Because I'm like obsessed with the lyrics. I'm like, how can you understand or get an impression from a piece of music without listening to what the singer is saying and all that stuff? But this album for me was like the freaking opposite, man. Like the clarity of emotion is so crystal clear to me when I'm listening to this, and that comes almost entirely not from the lyrics. And when I read the lyrics along with the song, and when I look into them, it makes me understand it less. It's like I can't find the meaning in those lyrics. The lyrics are like the deeper that I dive into reading what the lyrics of her words are, the farther I get away from her communication, I feel. And it's so unique for me. I don't know if I've ever experienced that with an album before.
It's funny because today I got the album on vinyl and it's got a lyric sheet in it, and so I listened to the album today and I read along with I was like, all right, I should probably start paying attention to what people say on these albums, so I'll at least kind of know. And I kind of agree with you. Like again,
reading, we're like, what?
Not like it's not. I don't.
That's
think,
how I felt. Anyway.
I don't think the lyrics are like bad. It's just that. They're really beautiful. It's like really beautiful poetry. Mm-hmm. But again, it's like she's like giving like an impression of something from like a whole sheet of lyrics. It's like one feeling that a whole sheet of lyrics can give you like an impression of. But you're right. It's like if you don't like dive super deep into the lyrics, I think you still will get the impression. Like
Yeah.
I don't think that reading the lyrics like obscured the emotionality of the album for me, maybe like it did for you. But I do agree that like it didn't like necessarily bring me closer. Like it was interesting and it was cool, but it's more like there are certain lyrics on this album that really stick in my brain. Like it is happening again, right? Like when she sings that, it's just this big like emotional moment of like all these big crescendos of like it is happening again. And it's like it almost doesn't matter what she's literally writing about.
What is happening again? But
what does that mean to you in relation to this emotion, right? That is what I get from these songs.
Yeah, because normally the way that I relate to lyrics is that I do crave an answer to that question, what is happening again, so that I might more clearly understand what it is that you're communicating, you know? But this is like, at least this is just how I feel as a listener. I have no idea what Victoria intended, but it seems like it's not the answer to that question, what is happening again, is not important. What is being communicated is the feeling it's happening again.
Right.
It's happening again. That is the feeling.
Right.
Like once, as long as you understand what those English words mean, you're done. You get it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and it's almost like great filmmakers don't like explain their movies, right? It's like,
well, David Lynch doesn't. Some of them do.
That's what I'm talking about.
But the one that you're thinking of doesn't.
That's what I'm talking about.
David Lynch.
Great filmmakers don't always explain their films or the meaning of their films.
On the side, Nate's list of great filmmakers. Number 1, David Lynch. End of list.
Uh-huh. Yeah, correct. Okay. That's the correct list as well. You got that correct as well. But no, it's like almost in the same way that like some filmmakers don't explain the meaning in their movies. It's almost because when you don't do that, a different interpretation of that art can live within every single viewer of that movie, or in this case, listener of that album. Like it may mean it's going to resonate with me in a way that will resonate in 1,000 different ways with 1,000 different people. It might be similar, but it's going to be different. And it's because I think the lyrics are a little bit obtuse and obscure, and they're not literal. You know what I mean? Like they're open-ended enough to convey something, right? That is in concert with the music that they're making. And it's pretty remarkable. Like,
it is. And I think it's really interesting too, because that phenomenon that you're describing is unavoidable. No matter what your intention is when you're making a piece of music, that same thing is going to happen. There's going to be something unique that lives there inside of each listener subjectively, right? And Beach House is just a band that just like embraces that.
Yeah.
And just like really like surfs that wave rather than trying to combat it in some way, I guess.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. What are the building blocks of a Teen Dream track? What do you need?
Good question.
What do you need? Because again, like I said in the beginning, when you put this album on, and when I first heard this album, I was like, oh my God, it's so lush, and there's like 1,000 fucking synths and like 1,000,000 guitars and all these loops and like all these harmonies and stuff. It's really like there's like 5 things happening on every song.
This album is a musical illusion.
Yeah.
It's the musical version of an optical illusion, right? Because like you say, when you listen to it, the impact that you get here, there's a quote, Alex Scally quote. He says, "There's actually very little reverb on the record, but the feeling that reverb gives you is all over the record."
I read that quote today too and was like, dude, that's so fucking true. It's so true. It's actually not super reverby, but it does give you the impression that it is. It's the impression of it.
And if you don't believe us, go back and listen to it. Listen to the snare drum.
Yep.
Okay. Albums like this, like dreamy, ethereal, washy, floaty albums, I guarantee you listen to the snare drum, what are you going to hear? That's what you're going to hear.
We're going to use those Brandon snare samples for our next electronic album. Our next electronic album.
You listen to this album, that snare drum dry as a bone.
Yeah.
Okay. Riddle me this. How do you get this effect? How do you get this impact? How do you get this vibe when your drum kit is that dry? I honestly don't understand.
I actually don't know.
This is a magic trick.
Yeah.
This album.
Yeah. So our building blocks though are what? You've got most importantly, you've got let's start.
Oh, you want to start from the top,
start
not from the bottom. Okay, I was going to start from the bottom with drums, but yeah, okay, starting from the top with Victoria's voice.
But
right?
I think I bet you this album was mixed. This was like a start with the vocals type of mix.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting.
And then work your way to the drums. I like the way we would mix would be like always start with the rhythm section, right? But one of the things I love about this album,
with the drums. That's the normal way to mix. Yes.
There's a whole nother school of thought, and I learned this during my time at Capitol.
Oh, okay.
Honestly, with like Al Schmidt, who's fucking. If you don't know who Al Schmidt is, he's the guy. Okay. There's another school of thought with mixing, which is like you actually start with the most important thing, and in any pop song, that's the vocal. You start. So like I remember hearing many times he would start with the vocal very present and up, and then he would like fill in the gaps with all the other instrumentation under it, right? And he would never like exceed or like go past like the real estate he'd already allotted to the vocal. And I don't do it that way.
Well, you know what? That just makes a lot of sense when you really think about it. But yeah, it wasn't how I learned it, but yeah,
me neither.
Makes a lot of sense.
But it's kind of an old school like pop kind of way of mixing, I think.
So your theory is this album was mixed that way?
I think it could have been because I think first and foremost is her vocal.
Yeah.
Then you have, I think, kind of sharing a tier of importance would be her synths and his guitars.
Yes.
And then it's like a drum machine and some acoustic drum overdubs that are very sparse. And then under that is probably vocal harmonies. But that's fucking it. That's it.
And most, like 95, 98% of the time on this album, there are no vocal harmonies. There are no backing vocals. For the vast majority of this album, there is one voice. No double tracking, no harmony, no backup parts, one voice. And that one voice is really...
we should talk about her voice.
Okay, we're going to talk about her voice. And right after I say this one last thing, which is, by and large on this album, her lead voice part is the only track that has any perceptible reverb on it.
Yeah.
Like overtly perceptible reverb. Mm-hmm. It's kind of just that one thing. Mm-hmm. Okay, her voice. So...
Who does she sound like to you? I couldn't. Wow. I couldn't put my finger on this all day. I saw someone online said Nico, and I thought, okay, maybe.
I don't know Nico well enough to really know. The closest thing that her voice really reminds me of is not individuals. It's more of a time, and it's that 2010 time.
Okay.
You know, like the closest individual that I can think of is, you remember Florence and the Machine?
Yeah.
Similar vibe.
Okay.
It reminds me of like some music coming out of Sweden that I was hearing during that time.
Well, she's French. She's French.
Right, she's from Europe. And so, 2010 in music, there's a lot of stuff, either transatlantic or coming straight from Europe that was like Sigur Rós and Little Dragon, The Knife, Fever Ray, Coco Rosie, stuff like that. And I don't think that her voice really like oh, her voice sounds just like those people's voices.
No.
It's more just the technique and the manner of performance sounds like that era to me.
Because you're right. I think someone said Nico, and I am relatively familiar with Nico, Velvet Underground, or Nico, and some of her solo stuff. Nico, like, to me, though, like, lives on an island. It's called the Island of Nico, and no one sounds like that because she has this very, like, pronounced accent while she sings, which was very unique. You know, a lot of people, like, they kind of lose their accent when they sing, especially if it's like a European accent. Like, you don't really hear it when they sing. With her, it's like so pronounced, and it's really unique. And I can't extricate it from the way her voice sounds to me. Is like, if you sound like Nico, then you have a very weird, I don't even know where she's from voice. I mean, I'll just say her voice is just really unique. It is. And I guess we should maybe describe why that is. I think her voice is like raspy would be going way too far. I don't think she has a raspy voice.
No, yeah, I agree. It's not. I wouldn't say raspy. No,
but it is very breathy. I think it is very textural. It's not like it is super feminine, but it's not in a super traditionally feminine way. Because I think her voice lives in a register that is a little bit deeper than most female singers. Although her range she has fantastic range, I think. Like,
she can go way up high.
Yeah, she can.
I read an album review that used the word androgynous to describe her voice, and I was like, I get what you mean, but I disagree, because I
kind of get it. But go ahead.
When I listened to this album, this is undoubtedly a woman singing. Like, there's no question. Which to me just kind of, okay, that takes care of the androgynous word.
That's true. That's true.
That it wouldn't have that effect if it was androgynous.
But it is kind of
but I think she's just she's allowing her voice to resonate in a spot on her body that is lower, like physically lower, closer to the ground than most female vocalists that we hear. I think, and I really don't think it's that much more complicated than that. You know, she's drawing it from a place that is closer to the core of her torso, of her body.
What is it called? It's like the head voice and what's the other one?
There's chest voice.
Okay, yes, chest voice.
Chest voice. You know, and then you go up, and then there's head voice, where the voice is located is in your head, and then there's mixed voices in between the two. Right?
Where is she? Where is she?
So I think that a lot. So she, Victoria Legrand, like many great singers, and Victoria Legrand, by the way, she's not like some self-taught singer who just figured it out one day. No, she had very traditional training. She's a very well-schooled and very accomplished person who put in the time. She's a very good singer.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Dude, do you know who her family is?
No.
Okay.
I think I may have at one point, but I may have learned this at one point because this is vaguely familiar to me, but you have to tell me, actually.
Long story short, she comes from a long line of very prominent musicians. Dude, her uncle is the guy who did the score for the movie The Umbrellas of Cherbourg.
I don't know that.
Okay, that's like one of the greatest French New Wave films.
Okay, cool. So 60s French movie or something?
Yes, exactly.
50s, 60s?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he was like a prominent film composer in the French New Wave films.
Wow.
This says, Legrand won his first Oscar for the song The Windmills of Your Mind from the Thomas Crown Affair. Classic movie from the 60s.
Wow.
And that song, The Windmills of Your Mind, is like a big song from that. Her uncle is the dude who wrote that. So she comes from, she's pedigree, bro.
That's cool.
But like most really highly skilled singers, she is transitioning between all three of those throughout the album.
Right, right.
So there are moments when even in the same line, in sometimes in the same word, we'll transition between three of those.
Right. I guess she is like what is she, like kind of like a tenor maybe, would you say?
So that I really don't know. I don't, because there actually is like a real way to distinguish between, tenor, soprano, alto, contralto, and all those things. And I don't know. Oh, well, okay. Wikipedia says Legrand possesses a contralto vocal range.
Okay, hold on. Contralto, the lowest of the female vocal ranges. Okay, the lowest for a female vocalist is a contralto. It is between a tenor and a mezzo-soprano. So I was kind of right. It's like I think she's like around like a tenor-ish kind of range.
Yeah, but lower than most of the female singers that we're accustomed to hearing. I got to say, when I first started listening to this album, I put it on first song, Zebra. I was worried at first.
Okay.
Because just from listening to her sing in that first song, I was really worried that you had picked an album and I was stuck with an album where the lead singer is going to be doing what's called cursive singing. Are you familiar with this?
No, educate me.
Alone in their vowels. I can't even imitate it.
I know,
You know what I'm talking about. It's this indie thing where you have to put an oi or an I in every fucking vowel.
It's like a trendy kind of way to sing. It
infuriates me to no end.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It is like, it's not even a crutch. It's
like a learned habit.
Yes. If a crutch were something that you would be better if you didn't have that crutch and stop leaning on it because it's actually making it worse, then that would be what that is.
It's like the voice from like Pearl Jam and Creed.
Yes.
It's like, it's just like a way people start adopting like vocal tendencies. And it's like, why is this happening right now?
Exactly. Yeah. It's a strange affectation that just proliferates through all kinds of singers. And a lot of them are like more amateur level singers. But it's big in indie scenes. Okay.
Yeah.
So just from in Zebra, I got really worried because there's some sort of vowels in there that are twinged and turned and oid just a little bit. I was like, oh God, Nate, what the hell did you do? But thank God that's not the case.
Right.
As the album goes on, we leave that song, her vocal performance is so controlled and it's so powerful, okay? Yeah. I feel, here's my hot take of the episode. I feel that Victoria Legrand's voice has a lot of commonalities with reggae singers.
Wow. Let's go.
Hear me out.
Let's go. Let's go.
Three of the things that I think are like the great qualities that a lot of reggae singers and singers from Jamaica possess and that make them great performers, in my opinion. They, tickle my fancy. One of them is the way that she sits in a groove at a slow tempo. The way that her lyrics are not just on beat 1, 2, 3, 4. The tempo is slow, the drum pattern is syncopated, and the rhythm of her verse bounces and is in offbeats and in pockets that interact with the drums in a very slow tempo. And the way that she performs it makes it feel very natural and effortless. But when you look at it written on the page, it's actually a very sophisticated rhythmic
like interplay.
Syncopation. Right, exactly. It reminds me a lot of the way that Gregory Isaacs sings. Okay?
I love this take.
She does that. Another second thing is that she is singing so loudly and powerfully in certain syllables and like full timbre notes that still at the same time end up giving across a very languid and sleepy aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can put this album on and fall asleep to it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But
yeah.
Listeners, I guarantee you, I promise you, when you're standing next to her in rehearsal, or if you're sitting next to her while she's, practicing or recording this album or on stage performing, this woman is singing so loud.
Yes.
So loud.
Yes.
Okay? Just the acoustic sound coming out of her mouth and off of her body she's rocking.
Yes.
But it sits in such a contrasting vibe. Okay?
Yes.
Third thing, what that ends up giving is such a nice textural contrast that would not be there if the singer were giving like a very gentle and twee performance.
Yeah.
Right? If
it's
this
almost
music
like,
is that, yeah.
It's almost like, you know how they say you have to crank your amp if you want to get like the full tone out of your amp?
Yes.
Guitar players know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Like if you really want the full, like you want to get all the nuance out of your amplifier, you actually do have to turn it up to like 7.
It has to be loud.
It has to be fucking loud. And you can get all the cool dynamics and nuance and all the little details that your amp is capable of.
It doesn't sound good when it's quiet.
It doesn't.
It only gets that good sound that people come after. It only when it's loud.
Yeah. And so we get to hear the full potential of her as a singer because she's projecting so effectively.
Yes. Yeah. She is not holding back. She's leaning into these notes. Okay. Yeah. And it gives such a nice textural contrast because when the singer is very twee and very in that, I generally, by and large, obviously there's exceptions, but generally I really don't enjoy that aesthetic.
Like nails on a chalkboard a little bit.
Yeah, because it's like for like. And, so Victoria singing like this in this musical context.
She's like fully in. She's like fucking invested.
Yes.
Her voice is an instrument and she's fucking in using it. Like she...
It's like with food where you want textural contrast, like if your breakfast, cut up some banana and some yogurt or something. This is like having the granola in there.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this is now a more full sensual experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So listening to this album has... there's more texturally to grab onto.
Yes.
Than if the music was soft and she's also singing soft. But it's another way in which this is a musical illusion because it doesn't feel like she's singing loud at all. It feels like she's whispering to you. Yeah. But when you sit down and look at it, like you're saying, when it feels like it's complex, but when you really sit down and actually inspect it, it's very simple.
Very simple.
But when you sit down and actually inspect, what is this woman doing? It's like, oh my God, she is singing at the top of her lungs. Yeah. Yeah. Really? Yeah. Anyway.
And like I said,
those are all things that reggae singers do to complete on my little hot take. Those are all qualities that reggae singers do, and it's fucking dope. Anyway, go ahead.
I think we should let's move down our tier list. Okay. So next we have Victoria Legrand. I think her voice and her performance is like the key to unlocking all the emotionality and depth that is in this music. It's your way in, right? But I think maybe not quite equally as important, but right under that, I think you have to say is. I would love to give only a section to Alex Scally and his guitar playing, but I think that his playing is very interlinked with her playing. I think that they are a true duo in that sense.
What they're doing instrumentally, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next on the tier list, you got to go is the bed, like the bed of synth and like loopy guitar arpeggiations and stuff. Like a lot has been made of
what is arpeggiation, by the way? I just want to be sensitive for the here.
You to go to demonstrate. I don't have a guitar.
I won't even.
Yeah.
I asked Nate, but I'll just show you. What he means by the arpeggiation is instead of meaning you play all the notes that are in the chord one at a time. So
yes.
Like instead of playing like a D minor chord, you're like playing D minor. You just go. You just play all those notes one after each other instead of all at the same time. That's arpeggiation, what Nate's talking about. And that, as you can tell if you've heard this album, is a very prominent feature of what Alex Scally is doing on the guitar. Is he's arpeggiating like a mother across all these songs.
I guess let's do it. Let's talk about Alex Scally, because I do think that it is...
We should.
It is like, as much as I love her playing on this as well, a lot of it is very just textural. It's like she's just laying down like a bed to sing over.
Right. And she's not arpeggiating. She's holding chords on her keyboard.
Yes. Yeah. Most of the time. I think that there's some stuff I want to say. Maybe there's like kind of some more sequencer, like kind of arpeggiation stuff. But for the most part, it's like, she's like laying out these chords, to sing over. And Alex Scally is playing these very, at times, intricate, very, at times, very simple arpeggiations of chords right under her. He also very often is just like provides like a direct like counterpuntal like melody.
Right.
Or like almost like a call and response thing.
Yeah, like the that thing. Yeah.
His guitar playing, I would say, is probably the next most important like voice on the album. Like it's the next most important kind of thing you could like hook on to as far as melodies are concerned.
Totally.
And even in his stuff where like I had this thought today that like he's not in any way, in almost any way, for 90% of his record, he's not playing guitar like a guitar player. He's kind of using the guitar as like a second synthesizer almost.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like
right. That makes sense.
The way
playing things that you would normally play on a keyboard,
he's doing it on guitar.
But he's playing it on a guitar. Yeah, no, that's true.
And even
I didn't notice that.
Like sonically, like the way he performs these like arpeggiations of all these parts, they sit in a similar place that like a synth would. It's like she's playing like the simple synth stuff, or even a piano.
All that arpeggiation thing that we're talking about. That's something that you learn to do when you're playing a piano. With your right hand, you just move it, arpeggiate it, gives it more interesting texture. Yeah,
like he's not playing like lead guitar. Like there's no like solos on this or anything.
Right.
There's a few moments where he plays in like somewhat of like a lower register, and it's like single notes, and it's like he's performing like a melody kind of thing. But for the most part, like it's almost like he is like the right hand of a piano and she is like the left hand.
Yeah, dude. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Put it. Yes.
Like she's holding down the bass and a lot of like these big chords, and he's just this like shimmery kind of right hand texture.
He's the granola in that yogurt, in that parfait, baby. Yeah. No, it's so cool, man. This is such a good example of someone putting across. So this is a really genius guitar record. Okay, the guitar work on this record. All you guitar students, all you guitar players, all you songwriters, and everybody, young guitarists, young and old, study this album. Check out what this guitar player is doing on this album, because this is important stuff to know. Because this is such a showcase of just the crucial, tasty, important stuff that really serves the song really serves the record, serves the musical message, and how much of that you can get done with such basic skills.
Yeah.
Okay?
Again, sounds complex, sounds big, sounds impressive. Really, though, very simple.
So I learned a couple little guitar parts from this album, and maybe 4 things. All of them, I just by listening to them, I assumed, okay, that's going to be tough to learn. And I just Googled it.
Or you'll need like a piece of equipment that he has or something like that. Like, no.
And when I actually learned how to play it, it's like, oh my God, that is something that I learned how to play when I was like 13.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, he accomplishes all of this, all these beautiful guitar moments using basic first level guitar skills. Okay. Now, that being said, he's doing it in a very clean way. All right. The skill, you know, see, I'm making mistakes. To be able to do that on repeat for the whole song, that takes practice. That's not easy. But those hand shapes,
it has to be like something you're good at. You know what I mean? Like being able to play like individually plucked kind of arpeggiations. That is like a whole skill set in its own world of guitar playing that like you couldn't just like replace him with like another guitar player and like expect like similar results. Like even though what he's playing is really simple.
No, I really disagree because, okay, if you just take a look at what are some of the albums that we've talked about so far on this show. Okay. You got the guys who were playing in Bob Dylan's band. You got the guitar players that were playing on Graceland. You got David Bowie, Black Star. You got the guys who were playing on Trout Mask Replica. You got Jimi Hendrix. Okay? So these guitar parts that are happening on this Beach House album, I really feel these are parts that like any guitar player could play. Anybody could play this.
Probably. I guess I'm just trying to give him credit that he's almost like a specialty pitcher.
Yeah,
like,
it's so tasteful. So,
yeah.
But would any of them have come up with this? Would any of them have been able to resist going beyond this stage? Maybe not.
Yeah.
And the fact that he plays what he plays and nothing else, nothing more, nothing less, is this goes back to what we were talking about before, where they let the sound talk to them. They play what the song wants to be.
Right.
This is all the song wanted to be.
Right.
There are so many opportunities for Alex Scally to end up like ruining these songs by doing something that serves him rather than serves the song.
Yes.
And he doesn't do it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of amazing because listening to this album leaves sort of a big mystery, which is how good of a guitar player is Alex Scally? When you listen to this album, you can't tell. I have no idea how good he is at guitar because of how judicious and restrained and like...
But you know what? The full picture you get though from that is maybe he's holding back on guitar. Maybe this is like the most he can do. It's unclear. But the full picture you do get is that it takes an amazing musician to be able to, an amazing guitar player, even more specifically, to be able to have the restraint necessary to serve a Beach House song and a Beach House record in the manner that he does, especially as a fucking guitar player, dude.
And that's why I want all these guitar students to listen to this for that reason, because there's so much to be learned. Like this is such an important, I was called a skill, but just sort of like an important like part of your being as a guitar player to possess, like to be able to understand that, you know what's needed right now is for me to sit right here is less. Yeah. Oh my god.
That is maybe like 90% of guitar players will never learn that, have never learned that, don't understand that, and can't. It's like completely incompatible with like the way they think about the instrument. And you can tell he understands his role in the band, and it's to become like a textural component for this music. It is not to be some fucking Guitar Hero thing, right? And the music is all the more better for it. I think, like,
absolutely. And if you're a guitar player and you choose to, you know, bypass this whole element of being a guitar player, well, then you better be ready to really roll the dice, because then your options are, you better either be Angus Young or nothing. You know what I mean? And if you can pull it off, great, more power to you. But that's the position that you're putting yourself in.
Yeah. And like I think more and more, like the way guitar as an instrument is going to like live on into the future is not through guys who are gonna like blow you away and like fucking do tap solos. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it's not. It is like Alex Scally. Alex Scally is showing you, you know, producers, guitar players, instrumentalists, the way forward for guitar, which is to use it as a tool, to use it as a musical instrument, not as like a tool for masturbation, even if it's rad when you masturbate with your guitar. It's like,
and he gets so detailed with the sound, and he's really using the sound of a Fender guitar as itself, because like we said, he's playing things that you could normally expect to be played on a keyboard, except that it's on a guitar. But it's not just, you know, just like some random choice. Like, it could just as easily be played on a keyboard. The way that he does it, he's taking advantage of the fact that it is a guitar, and he's letting those very unique aspects of the sound of this clean electric guitar, Fender guitar specifically, he's taking advantage of those little things. Like, for example, just that little riff from I think it's from Zebra, right? That's Zebra, right? I think so. But when I
all of his guitar parts on this sound like that, so it's like,
dude,
yeah.
That's there was that 10 Mile
stereo.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then transition over to Zebra. Yeah. Anyway,
you know what? If it works, it works.
Exactly.
Like, dude, fuck it.
It takes balls to do that twice, and we only noticed it twice. He may do that like 3, 4, 5 times on this record.
Yeah.
I don't know. We go back and look, but that takes.
Did we not espouse
balls?
Did we not espouse one of the core benefits of this album is its cohesion? It's
cohesion, exactly. And this is a positive, by the way. You know, I don't want to hear you guys in the comments go like, yeah, but he's actually a genius, though. Like, no, I'm saying all of these aspects of simplicity are the reason why he is a effing genius.
It's exactly.
Okay. Anyway,
in the same way that like Meg White is a brilliant drummer. Like, I actually believe Meg White is one of the greatest drummers of all time.
Oh,
and
wow.
Anyone who...
There's your hot take.
That's my hot take of the episode. Meg White, one of the all-time great drummers, one of my all-time favorite drummers, and anyone who thinks otherwise is actually like, you are not smart. Like, I actually think less of you and your musical mind and opinions if you can't recognize and understand why Meg White is not only a good drummer, but like one of the best drummers of all time. Like, I really think that.
I'm going to plead ignorance. I'm sure when I inspect, I will agree with you.
Sure.
I'm sure.
But I think a lot of it, not this, it's not a 1-to-1, but I think you could say a lot of you could apply a lot of those kinds of arguments to the way Alex Scally plays. It's simple, but it's fucking effective. It's fucking great. I'm such
a fan. I am really admiring his guitar work on here. Okay, for example, here's one of the parts is he's taking advantage of the sound of the guitar uniquely as this instrument, because that guitar part on on Zebra. Okay, there's an easier way to play that same line. Okay, with your left hand, it takes way less effort to play it on a different part of the neck up here, on the highest 3 strings. But that's not how he does it. He plays it higher so that the first of the strings is the D string is one of the wound strings that has another piece of metal wrapped around it, and the other 2 are non-wound strings that are just one piece of metal, because the sound of the pick on the wound string sounds different than the other 2 non-wound strings. So he plays it here. It sounds different.
Way different. And I think better. I like it better the way he does it. Yeah.
And it's so intentional. I didn't ask him. I didn't see it in an interview. I've never heard him say it, but I'm saying it. I know it's intentional. And you can only get that texture if it's on a guitar. So, yeah, man. No, he's in complete control, much like how Victoria is in complete control of her voice, of the little details and nuances of her performance. He has that level of control over what is coming off of his guitar as well. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Last on our tier list, let's just cover everything else, which we got drums and kind of backgroundy, kind of overdubby stuff, but like mainly drums though.
Drums. Yeah, let's talk about the drums.
I think drums
are... that.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that.
What do you got to say about these drums?
So another thing I love about this album is kind of like what we were saying earlier, that like I have a theory that this could have been not a bottom-up mixed record. Bottom-up meaning starting with drums, moving on to bass, moving on to everything else, and then putting in your vocal. But it could be something that was actually in the reverse, because I think contrary to so many albums, the drums are actually mixed quieter than everything else and are probably, I think they're really cool. I think the way they're programmed is like really unique. They do a lot of cool stuff. And I think that's the reason they brought the 2 guys in, because I think originally Alex Scally handled a lot of the drum programming on their earlier albums. And they brought people in who like, that was more their their specialty, was like programming drum machines.
Right. Percussion. And when you're in bands, when you're making music, it is like that. You know, there are percussion specialists, like quote unquote real drummers. They really do have a handle on the whole drum percussion element of this that the rest of us really don't understand. So it's important to bring in an expert. Yeah.
But this is an example of an album. I can't think of like a lot off the top of my head, because it's just not the style of music I typically am drawn to. I'm drawn to like heavy rhythm sections, reggae, dub, rock, funk, soul, hip-hop. R&B, hip hop. That's my shit. That's the world I like to exist in. Fat kick, fat snare.
Drum-centric music.
The
Teen Dream is not drum-centric music. Drums are a decoration in the corner of the room.
Yes, they are. It's completely ornamental for the most part. Most of like the pulse and the rhythm that you're feeling is from like Alex Scally and what he's doing on guitar. Yeah, that's a fucking gallop right there, and that's the rhythm of the song.
And that could be the answer to there. Like, man, why does he use that same arpeggiation pattern so much? It's like, well, maybe because he's the drummer of the band.
Kinda, yeah. And I think
I'm just realizing that right now. Wow.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, this is a record where, as big as it sounds, there are times where the drums can get completely buried. like completely lost. Like especially the really small ones where it's like very obvious. It's like it's basically like a preset on her keyboard that she's like pressing play on.
Exactly. On her, that's a Yamaha PS20 keyboard. It's got a little, all the little. Yeah, you just press a button and it starts playing that.
Yeah, that keyboard is probably like $50. Like, not anymore, but I bet you at certain points in time you could have bought that keyboard for $50 dude.
Before Beach House became big, it was the type of a keyboard that someone would just give you because you expressed an interest in it. Like, oh, you want that? Here, take it. I don't want it.
Or like you'd buy like an 8-year-old to like start learning on or something. Right. Like, it is not like a sought after keyboard. Yeah. It is
now they cost about $200.
Yeah, now which is
because Beach House is big,
House.
and that the Yamaha PS20 is the Beach House keyboard.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, again, another clever deception on this album is that like I honestly can't tell when there are real acoustic drums and when there are samples, or when there's just like a preset on the key. The presets are pretty obvious. You can hear this. But like there's one song that I'm like, oh, that sounds like it's an acoustic drum. And then I really listen to it closely and I'm like, oh no, that's a sample. Because you can hear like the click of a hi-hat in the snare.
Right.
So like you know that it's just a fucking sample, right?
Yeah. I think it's a blend of all three.
It is.
Yeah.
And I love that about it because, again, this album is not like some grand transformation of their process. Their process is basically the same. It's just that it's done it's just the way it's presented, like you said.
In a nicer studio with a nicer console, nicer microphones, paying someone who's really good at engineering to capture the stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just another like deception on this album, which is that like it gives you the impression of a drummer, and it's not. I don't even know if there is a song where like there's someone behind a kit playing with them. I actually can't tell just from listening.
According to the credits, all the songs have a drummer playing.
Totally. But what does that mean, though? I don't know what that
consists of.
Exactly.
Right,
what does that mean?
I see what you mean. Right. What exactly are they playing? Right. None of the songs have someone doing it in a rock and roll sense. Right. We're going like 1, 2, 3, 4, here we go. Catch and playing a beat. Right.
I actually don't believe that happened. Like, I don't believe that I could be totally wrong, because on their next album, they did have a drummer.
So something that's really interesting about the drums on this album is that, this album goes back and forth between two very fundamental like camps of drums and of percussion. And that is, it goes back and forth between drum beats that have no backbeat,
right,
and drum beats that have a backbeat.
Totally.
So what is a backbeat? Basically, what a backbeat is when there is some drum or some percussive element that puts a strong stress on the beats 2 and 4. Okay? It's normally a snare drum, and this is what we're used to, right? And rock and roll, a lot of Western music, it's boom, ta, boom, boom, ta, boom, pa, 1, 2, dun, dun, 4, right?
Right.
And so that's called a backbeat. And when there is a stress on the backbeat, that makes your body move to it in a certain way. It makes your brain kind of follow the pulse and the bounce and the flow of this piece of music in a particular way. We lean harder on the second one, not on the first one. Okay? About almost exactly half of the music on this album has a backbeat. So almost exactly half of the music has no backbeat. So that just means that the drum is going boom, 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 boom,
right,
boom, boom, boom. So Zebra used to be 10 Mile Stereo, Real Love. Those they don't have a backbeat. Okay, so that means then, since the stress is not on beats 2 and 4, where's the stress? The stress is on beats 1 and 3. Or sometimes these pieces of music actually don't end up having a feel of having 4 beats at all. Sometimes these songs feel like the beat is 1. It feels like 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, or 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, like used to be, right? You don't really feel that in 4s. You feel that in either in 2s or in 1s.
Added to that is there's a bunch of stuff on this album that's in 6 or 3. You know, there's tons of stuff in odd meters on this album too.
Are you sure? Okay, all right. Anyway, but that goes to my point, is that when there's no backbeat, okay, since the division is not in even numbers, it just ends up being a pulse. And this was a feel of music that was getting very prominent around this time. Okay, this album came out in 2010. Beach House were not the only people making indie music with a boom, boom, boom. Oh, you have an answer to this?
The last
question?
Take Care is in 6.
Oh,
the last song's in 6.
Okay, well, there you go.
Keep going. Sorry.
That's right.
I had to make sure I wasn't completely wrong about that.
No, but this is a big thing with the indie thing, which was they were bringing in folk elements. Okay, it's 2010. Only 2 years later would the Lumineers come out. Okay, and then you get the glorious style of music, which is called stomp, clap, hey, which ruined the entire world. Okay, yeah, of just stomping and clapping and people needlessly bringing in folk elements because it
was trendy.
Oh my God, insufferable. But
really, truly, I agree with you. Wow, that was a dark time for music.
But this pulse where the stress is on 1 and 3 and not on the backbeat, not on 2 and 4, that I think is sort of more has its roots in like music that comes from like Ireland or Scotland or something, you know, that came to America that way.
Yeah.
And it's kind of more and it's really interesting because if you don't focus in on it, you wouldn't really be able to tell why does this one feel any different than this other one.
Right.
And this is genius because why? Because these are the ways that they get the variety in their album where there's such consistency throughout the songs.
Right.
There's such consistency throughout the emotional location, throughout the dynamic, how loud, how soft they're playing. The mix sounds the same across all the albums, I mean, across all the songs. So how do you get this variance? How do you get variety? You have to resort to something very fundamental. And they just shift between songs that have no backbeat and songs that have a backbeat. And it does not get much more fundamental than that. That is like the most basic thing that you can change. And most of these songs, that is the biggest difference between them, is that this one has a backbeat.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, because all the other like sonic textural qualities are pretty much the same across the rest of the songs. Yeah. So in that sense, it's probably brilliant that they brought in people to specifically handle drum production, because it's like, I could imagine a version of this album where maybe the two of them did all the drum production, and maybe it was like very simple, and maybe it was totally different, you know, and maybe it wasn't like quite as like satisfying as what they've achieved on this. The album was recorded at Dreamland Studios in Hurley, New York. That's kind of near Woodstock. And like I said, one of the things that really differentiates this era of beach house from prior eras is that, one, they had money, finally, and two, they spent all the money on their recording.
Not on blow. Yeah.
And so did you look into this studio at all? Did you look in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Check out the photos of the studio if you've never seen it, by the way. It's a church.
It's a former church from like the 1890s, I want to say.
A big wooden church. All the pews are gone.
So imagine like the front of the church, maybe where like the pastor would normally speak. There's now a wall there. And behind that wall is the console, the control room, the booth where the mix engineer or the recording engineer would sit. And then the ceiling, totally wide open, all the pews gone, the floor of the church completely wide open. That is like the live room space, right? Incredible idea for a studio, incredible studio, and incredibly smart place
to record this there.
At that studio. Yeah. It's like a marriage made in heaven. It's so smart. And it's something I learned for the first time for this episode. And it brings me back to something a quote from Alex Scally that you brought up earlier, which was that like, he said, like, there's actually not a lot of reverb on this album. There's like the impression of reverb, but there is kind of reverb on this album. It's just
because they recorded them in such a big space.
Yes.
And so you can hear the room in it.
But you hear the space. It's not the same thing as reverb, but like...
It's not the same. I mean, it literally scientifically is exactly the same thing as reverb. But what we mean, what we mean is that what you normally do on modern records is you record things very dry in a room with very little reverberation, so that you can do what? Add in reverb later, synthetically, or using some kind of organic space, but in some non-natural way, add reverb. And that's what we're used to hearing. And that's what you expect to hear when you hear a dream pop album, is something that's just awash with all kinds of added reverb. And they didn't do that here. And what you get is this way more transparent actual sound of the room, which doesn't resemble those added reverbs that we typically use. It's not as overt and attention grabbing, and
And you can't like put your finger on it. You're like, I know this is reverby, but like, why can't I? When I really critically listen, like, where is it? Like, where is it? I can't really find it. Like,
the only exception is on Victoria's voice, like we said earlier.
Yeah,
there is an added reverb that's on the lead vocal that is very apparent on Teen Dream, but that's the only exception to what we're talking about.
Right. Yeah.
Everything else is so organic sounding to this big church space.
Yeah.
And you can, and it's a good example to be able to hear the difference between a added reverb and a natural one. Because when you listen to all these instruments and what the drums, the guitar amps and everything sound like, there isn't more reverb added. And that natural stuff that's just there coming through the microphone along with the source sound is so much more transparent, and it's hard to put your finger on. Like you're saying, like you can't, it's hard to identify it with your mind's eye.
Yeah. You just get the sense that it's bigger. It's not necessarily reverb. It's just like everything sounds bigger. Like it just sounds more serious and more like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like an aged wine compared to like some $2 Chuck or something. Like, it's just like, there's some depth here. I don't know anything about wine, but I know this is better. Like,
right. Yes.
I don't know.
Without being able to explain it. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've read interviews with them where they talk like over and over again about how like all the money they had from the Sub Pop Advance was just like dumped into the recording process and just making this the best product, like the best album that they possibly could make. But touching on since we're talking about the studio, I really want to talk about like their gear too, because like the Beach House gear is like another like really intrinsic part of this band. I'm like incredibly charmed by like their lack of like caring about like nerdy guitar shit or nerdy keyboard shit. They
just use what they use.
They use what they use,
got.
and they use what they like. And you almost get the sense that like the very rudimentary gear that they still use and have is like it's an intrinsic part of their sound. It's like that is Beach House. You know what I mean? Like
that's a good point. I didn't think about this, and this goes back to something we were talking about at the beginning when we were admiring them for not changing their sound very much across their career. Mm-hmm. Is not only do they resist that urge to just okay, let's sound different now, but they don't throw away their gear. They keep playing the same keyboards.
Yeah.
Not just buying new ones of the same keyboard. No, the same keyboard. She brings it to the studio again. Like this same Roland JC120 jazz chorus guitar amp. He's gonna record with it again, because that is another way that bands and artists will really end up having a drastically different sound from album to album. Is
they like throw out gear between records,
they get new gear now that they have more money. Now that they have the kind of clout where when I started in the garage, I owned 2 guitars, but now I'm a famous guitar player, so I can own 150 guitars.
Right. Oh, Fender's going to pay me. Fender's going to pay me to have a signature guitar with my name on the headstock, even though it's like a piece of crap. I should play that. So
you can imagine, what are you going to do when you're recording your next album? I'm going to play a different guitar for each section of every song. You know what I mean? You end up recording with 30 different guitars on this album, none of which are the ones that you recorded your original albums with.
Right.
Beach House doesn't do that.
Right. And even like to the extent that they do like buy new stuff, the stuff that they buy, like, have you seen a picture of Alex Scally's guitar pedal board?
Okay, let me guess. It's a Boss RV5.
Yeah, it's all Boss.
It's all Boss pedals.
He only plays Boss pedals, which, like, okay, if you don't know, Boss is, there's nothing wrong with them. They're good, but they're like,
no, Boss makes great pedals.
They make great pedals,
but
they're very inexpensive. They're kind of like baby's first guitar pedal.
Yeah, they're the Crayola crayons of guitar pedals.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
And that's it. I looked at a picture of his guitar pedal board, which I admitted I think it's somebody said in the photo that it was like from one of their like stripped down shows or something, but it was like all Boss and one Yamaha pedal. That's it.
Okay. Yeah.
Boss reverb, Boss like tremolo, Boss looper, Boss chorus, Boss delay, Boss everything. Boss compressor, like it was just everything Boss. And I was like so charmed by that. I'm like, good, dude, it doesn't fucking matter. It just doesn't matter, dude.
Well, and this is why I love them, because it on the one hand, dude, it doesn't matter. Let's just do it. And on the other hand, the other side of that blade is it absolutely does matter, because that is our sound. That is how we get this sound, is by not going beyond these basic tools.
Yeah.
So it's both. It's like a snake eating its own tail, It's like, dude, it doesn't matter, and it completely, entirely matters, and it would all fall apart if we didn't do it that way.
It's like, because they believe it doesn't matter, it is now a fundamental, intrinsic part of the band.
Yeah, you can't take it away now.
If you were to get
so much,
if you were to get Strymon pedals all of a sudden for this guy, it would like possibly ruin the band. Like it would be sad. Okay.
You mentioned chorus, just real quick. So,
yes.
Another really cool piece of gear that they use to make this album and a lot of their other stuff is a guitar, a very famous guitar amp in particular. It's made by Roland. It's called a Roland JC120,
which again is not an expensive amplifier.
Yeah, this is a industry. These things were everywhere.
Cheap.
In the 80s, they're built in the 80s, right?
80s, yeah, I think.
And they made so many of them. I honestly, I don't even know if I've ever seen one that wasn't built in the 80s. I don't know if they make them anymore. Maybe they do. But the world is full of so many of them from the 80s that we don't need anymore, right? There's enough to go around for the rest of eternity. And that's a good thing.
An amp that would cost you a couple $100 tops, like not a super in-demand amplifier.
They weigh 1,000,000 pounds. They are so heavy. But they're highly sought after because they got this particular sound that nothing else sounds quite like it. Mm-hmm. JC in the serial number in the name, JC stands for jazz chorus.
Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ guitar amp. Yeah. People just call them a jazz chorus. Like they're ubiquitous to the point where if you're showing up for a session or going to a gig, you can just say, "Hey, do you guys have a jazz chorus?" And the answer will be yes or no, but everyone knows what you're talking about. So it's a big part of Alex's sound on this record. So you remember back when we were talking about Graceland, on our episode when we were talking about Graceland by Paul Simon, we were pointing out like one of the really, really big aspects of the guitar sound on there was the chorus on the guitar, right?
Yes, yes.
Ray Fury. If I can remember how to play it. There it is.
You got it.
Right? So, chorus, this is it without it. This is just the guitar by itself, okay? Chorus now makes it... What it does is it makes a copy of the sound and puts it right next to it and just kind of messes with it for a little bit. So you have its bizarro twin playing along with it, and they sort of mesh together. But the thing that Alex Scally does is he dials in this jazz chorus amp, which has a built-in chorus effect into the amp, and which is one of the reasons why people like this amp so much, because it has a chorus that's built into it that sounds a little bit different than all the other choruses. But he dials it in, and he gets a setting that is way more subtle than the settings that we were showing you when we were talking about Graceland. Because that Graceland sound is quintessential to the 80s. Chorus on the guitar is quintessential to the 80s. But heavy chorus on the guitar is quintessential to the 80s. That Alex Scally sound, the Teen Dream sound is way more subtle. Okay? Okay, here's with no chorus. Bone dry with the chorus. It's so subtle to the point where you can't identify it without contrast. Much like the reverb in that church that we were talking about.
Sure, yeah. You
would only be able to pinpoint it if you were to suddenly take it away. And when you just hear his guitar tone, it just sounds like, oh, it's a clean electric guitar. It's a guitar. And that chorus, that swimminess that it puts on the guitar is so freaking subtle. You know? If you were to go full 80s.
Oh yeah.
Okay. How much? What a different vibe this is.
Yeah, it is.
All of a sudden, it's 1986, and it's not 2010.
It is interesting. It's interesting. You point out the 80s comparison that I'm sure a lot of people probably when they hear this band they think like they're like a retro 80s throwback kind of thing. I don't think they really are. I don't hear that. I don't get that at all. Although you would think with the chorusy guitar thing, which is a very 80s move, that is like totally something they're intentionally doing as like an 80s throwback. But I think that they completely like make that sound like their own, and they make it sound contemporary, because I think it is distinct.
Right. Because, and I really do believe that it comes down to something so simple as just dialing it back.
Yeah.
That's all. It's just, yes, there's chorus on the guitar. It's just less.
Because in the 80s, they didn't have any restraint over things like that. There was too much.
Full blown. Yeah, man.
Full blown.
And this goes back to that thing of like how are we going to give a fresh feeling of variation on the song? Oh, give it a backbeat. And that's it. It speaks to that level of simplicity that they make their music with, which is like, how are we going to like reinvent and usher in a new era of chorus guitar in pop songs? How should we do that, Alex? Well, let me just turn this knob down.
Right.
And that's it.
You know,
that's the only difference.
What's funny is
it's like, amazing.
Like knowing them, there was no conversation. It was just, it's just how he does it.
It comes down to that doesn't sound right, and that does sound right.
Right. Yeah.
And I love that about them. I really admire that about them. It's
in the same way that you how you described him, like kind of voicing different chords in certain places. It's like it's little nuanced things like that like they care about. They give a shit about that. It's like their music. They take ownership over every detail. And it's very apparent in the choices that they make. You know, it's really clear once you really kind of pick it apart. I think a lot of people have maybe shit on them for like their sound has been so like unwavering for like almost 20 years. Like it's funny. I was listening to the Fantano interview with them, and he brought up that someone made the comparison that like you guys are almost like AC/DC in a way, that like they just have their sound,
the same sound over and over.
And they were really funny about it, because they just were like, well, yeah, I mean, what's the fucking big deal about that? Like, plus we could mention like a million artists that's true for, and that's not seen as like some kind of negative. And they even went so far as to say, like, I hate it when bands change sounds, because it sounds like they're like thinking too much before they actually start making music. Like they're like overthinking their own process.
We chose the exact same quote. I put that same quote in my notes too, because of how badass it is. I respect this about Beach House so much. Alex Scally says, this is just what we do. This is Victoria's voice. These are the organs we like. This is our band. We're not making some sort of conscious choice like, let's stay the same. I hate it when bands change between records. They're thinking before they make music. Alex Scally.
Yes.
That's so fucking bad. I have so much artistic respect for that, because I never even like realized that before he pointed it out. And I can find myself in that too. Like, you and I do that. We try to make our artistic choices before we've even started playing. Right? When we have a conversation about, okay, what's our next album? What are we going to put out next, man? Oh, it should be something like this. Well, we should probably do something like this because our last three have been like this. We do that all the time.
It's true.
And he is like correctly putting us on blast. Like, dude, you guys have not even fucking made any music yet. How do you know what it wants to be? Who are you serving? Are you serving yourself, or are you serving the music? You know what I mean?
And guess what? Every time, I will say this from extensive experience, every time you set out to make something and you say, on paper, I want it to have this quality, this quality, this quality, this quality, you make it and it's a totally different beast.
You never do it.
You can't.
Never what it is on paper.
You never can't, because
ever.
As the moment you start chasing the dragon of I'm creating something now, wherever that fucking trail leads you is where you go.
Something else happens.
Something else happens
because it really has a life of its own. And that's something that I really, really respect about Beach House is they really take that seriously. They like spend time listening to what the sounds are telling them. What is this vibe telling? They pay attention to the sounds that are coming off of their instruments and like follow the map.
Yes.
If they followed the line that those sounds are drawing on the map.
Yes.
You know?
Right.
And it's very intentional too. It's not some kind of like careless hippie just, whoa man, let's just go out there and just chase a vibe, bro. No, they're doing it like scientists. They're very intentional about it.
They're like, hey man, like, let's catch a vibe. Like, seriously, let's catch a vibe.
Actually.
And they even say that. They're like, I've heard them talk about, they're like the feeling that we got from the very first song we made is still present throughout every like subsequent song we've ever made together. Like, you know, and obviously they've crafted, you know, unique feelings for a million different songs, but it's like that creative thing that made them want to chase writing songs together. That is
to make the band.
Is like present. That is like the first thing is just like maintain that sense of like inspiration.
Yes.
And joint creativity. That is like paramount, right? For these two.
Yeah. And it's not by accident. That's what's so fascinating about it. It's not by accident. And that's why they're so unique and how much consistency there is throughout all their music and all their albums. But dude, what I want to say is how satisfying, what a breath of fresh air that is. How much more satisfied would we all be if every once in a while, some of these bands that we love would just keep making the same vibe again. Make another one of those, please. And quit fucking with it. Yeah. Quit trying to get fucking clever and cute. And like, you know what I mean? The world, musical history is full of bands that just like caught such a special vibe for one album and then they could never recapture it again.
Right. Or they're like chasing a trend, you know? They're like, time for Satanic Majesty's request, boys. Like, why, dude? Why? You guys are the Rolling Stones. Like, why would you do that? Why would you make a Beatles album? Like,
it's almost like some quality of artistic like courage that so many artists lack to just, let's not move. Let's just stay here.
Yeah.
Let's just make this again.
I think it goes
more of this, what we have found, you know?
I think it goes both ways though. Like in a lot of ways, I totally agree with that. I love Beach House. I love almost every single one of their records. And I do think it's a testament to their strength as a band that they can exist within this kind of sonic space for 8 albums now. And it doesn't get old and it still sounds fresh. And I still like look forward to their new records coming out. Right. I think that's awesome. And then on the other side of the spectrum, I do think, you know, someone like David Bowie or something who like every album, or Bob Dylan, it's like every album and they're like a chameleon and it's really cool. It's just that you don't have to be a chameleon. You don't have to do that. It's cool if that's like in your toolkit, you know, and you can do that, but like you don't have to do that, you know?
Because when Beach House does it each and every time, they're going back to that authentic well.
Yes.
They're going back to that original source every time. And each time that they get a new song from that place, it is that same specialness. And so they don't fall victim to what, you know, some bands and some artists do keep making album and after album of the same style and of the same vibe. And it does get tiring and it does get old because it loses a magic. because what those individuals are doing is now just trying to ape the surface features of what was great before.
Right.
And they're not going to that same source.
Yes.
Again, but Beach House does go to that same source again.
Yeah, like what the evolution of this band, to me, what it sounds like is, yes, they return to the same well every time, and the development, the progression you hear with them from album to album is just experience and time. That's what you hear.
Learning lessons.
You just hear a band that is like, we're doing, like, because I do think you can hear, I don't know how many of their albums you listen to for this. I wouldn't surprise me if you listened to only this. It's fine. But
not I hopped around.
Sure. But like for me, as like a fan of this band for a long time, I totally hear like a sonic progression. It is just not as, it's not like a fucking like, it's not black and white, you know?
It's not what other bands do, which is where they have eras. Like, that's when they did one with distorted guitars. Oh, that's the one where they did not distort a single guitar all of a sudden for that album or something.
Like for this one, like it's like, so their first two albums are really good too. They have one called Beach House and then the second one, Devotion. I really like Devotion quite a bit. I was really into that. Actually, I was into that, and then this came out when I was younger. Loved Devotion. Not so much into the first one. The first one is like very, very lo-fi. The second one is like, it is quintessential Beach House. It's essentially, Devotion is essentially Teen Dream without any money.
Right.
And Teen Dream is, the progression you hear on Teen Dream is money. They got a budget. They signed to Sub Pop, which is a huge indie record label.
Let's talk about Sub Pop. What is Sub Pop, Nate?
So Sub Pop is the label that they signed with in like the late 2000s. And Sub Pop famously, they're from Seattle. They're based in Seattle. Sub Pop is famously the label that signed Nirvana in the late 80s. And so they put out Nirvana's actual first album called Bleach, which is just super rough, but great album. And that album and Nirvana's success basically like put them on the map like forever. Like, and probably, I bet you that the success of Bleach alone probably could have funded that label in perpetuity, like because it was Nirvana's first fucking record. It was the first Nirvana album.
Right.
So ever since then, they kind of they shifted from like a grunge label to like, they are like, I would say, the quintessential, like they are the indie label in my opinion. They are like, they really have consistently had their finger on the pulse of like, they haven't been like kind of defined by like a genre or a decade, you know? They have like consistently had their finger on the pulse of like what is cool and what is happening in music for like 30, 40 years now, which is crazy to say.
Would it be fair to say that Sub Pop is sort of like the A24 of music?
Yeah, that's a great comparison, actually.
Yeah. What A24 is in movies, that's kind of what Sub Pop is like. Yeah, in American music anyway.
Or like Neon or something like that. Yeah, that. They're a cool label. They're a big label, but they're not like Sony or they're not fucking Warner Brothers or something. I don't know how much money they gave them, but from all indications, they spent all of it. Like they spent all of it on the studio and on recording.
Yeah, the actual the actual technical production of this album, which like you said, that's really more the progression that you hear in their music from album to album is like that. It's not artistically what is it, or even like musically what is it that much. It's more like how was this made and captured and is now presented. Like the manner in which this is now being presented to you is really what develops more. Right? Standout Songs.
That's
Let's do it. Okay, you want me to go first? You want to go first?
I don't. I'll go first. I don't mind.
Okay. Go first.
Because for me, like, it's very hard for me to like not just listen to this whole album. I love really, really cohesive albums like this that present a feeling. And maybe there are little sub feelings from song to song, but overall they make like this delicious fucking sandwich that like all together is like one thing, right? I love that. I aspire to that in like our music that we make, is to like, you know, we talk about this all the time, is the lengths that I push us to go to make all the songs sound like they live together, right? They sound cohesive. There's a great record for that. Like songs like bleed into, like the end of one song becomes the beginning of another. Like the track listing is really great. Like dude, Zebra. Zebra is, you know how a lot of times we talk about like great track ones and what makes what makes a great track one.
Yeah,
okay?
Like that whole discussion that we had about it that you cut out of our Nine Inch Nails episode. Yes, I know what you're talking about.
It's funny you bring that up because no one else remembers that because it got cut out. But
the history of the great track.
What's he talking about, everybody? I don't know. I don't know what he's talking about. He's rambling again. I think we might have to cut this out. I don't know. No.
Yeah.
But we've talked about a few times that didn't get cut out about what makes a great track one. And a great track one that we've kind of established is like a lot of times they can be it doesn't have to necessarily be the best song, but it can be basically like the song can exist or does exist as like a microcosm, a preview, if you will, of the rest of the album, right?
Right.
A lot of times that can make for a great track one. Zebra, I think, is a great first track, but to me, it feels like a great prelude. It feels like a great setup for the rest of the album. Like in the sense
more
of
in
like
a symphonic sense rather than a pop sense. Yeah.
Yes, and I think a lot of that is due to kind of things you've pointed out that that song doesn't have like a backbeat. It has like a really like simple drum beat. Like the intro of Zebra, and Zebra, it's honestly Zebra the song acts as an intro. If you think of the whole thing as like a big piece, which I do, Zebra itself is like the opening, like intro of the whole piece. And I really love it for that.
If the album is a song, then that
Zebra's
is the intro section.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. That's a better way to put it.
That's interesting.
So while it's not necessarily like my favorite song in the album,
are you putting that on your standout song, on your favorite songs list?
I think it's a very notable song on this album, but it wouldn't necessarily be one of my favorites. Like my favorite without a doubt is Silver Soul, the second song, which is in this analogy the first song, right? It's, to me, that is like this big...
The intro leads up to it, and now the album is starting. Yeah.
Yes, that is where the album like really kicks off. That is like a really big, like this grand, like emotional kind of statement that I really love. Norway, the next song, really great. I mean, the whole first like few songs are just so good, and then you get the rest of it is kind of a lot of like kind of album tracks, but they're all so strong. Like for me personally, like this is one of those albums when I put it on, I listen to the whole thing. Like I don't fucking jump around. I think there were times in the past where I would, and it's just not really a very satisfying way to like engage with this material.
You don't put it on to hunt for certain songs. Like a lot of albums are like that, where it's like, I'm going to pull it up because I want to hear this one and this one.
Right.
Yeah.
There are songs on this I can't wait to hear, but I always just listen to the whole thing, like when I put it on. I really like Better Times. God, Used to Be is great. I mean, there's so many good ones. What do you think? Did any of them like really jump out at you? What were some of your favorites?
So my favorite song on the entire thing is Walk in the Park.
Cool. Nice. Okay.
It's got that heavy beat. So, I, like you, am a true reggae head, true drum and bass loving, it's like the first moment in the album where there is a full-blown backbeat based beat that is no longer decoration, like how we were talking about. This is one of the few songs where it's like it is actually based around the drums in a traditionally American music way.
And kind of you get the feeling that kind of everybody gets like a spot in the spotlight on that song. Like Alex Scally has like a big guitar line in the middle of it.
Just that whole section just by itself, man. Just the however that thing goes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's pretty. It's a really big emotional like high point for the album. I agree. Yeah.
And that is the song where Victoria is really doing that Gregory Isaacs thing in the verses, just sitting in. Dude, go back next time you listen to that song. Check out Victoria's rhythm, where her syllables are.
I promise you,
in the verse.
I promise I'll never be able to listen to this album the same after you've made so many Gregory Isaacs comparisons to it, which is so rad.
Just sitting in there like Gregory Isaacs, man. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, and every section of the song is good. It's not one of those songs where I feel that some of the songs on this album are ones where it's like, oh, dude, this one, like just wait for the chorus. It's all about the chorus.
I agree. There's
some of them are like that.
Some are better than others. Like I've gone through my loving Take Care, the last song, and kind of being like, this is too much of like, okay, good night, everybody, like kind of song. Like, okay, bye-bye. Like it really sounds like a last song. But again,
right, with the long fade out.
Yeah,
but I think that's a beautiful way to end it. But yes,
it is. It's a beautiful song. To me, there's not really. This is it's a great album. There's not really like bad songs on this.
I love Walk in the Park. I love Lover of Mine. I love Better Times. I love 10 Mile Stereo. I love Real Love. So this is really interesting to me because I
like
saw
side B. You like the second side.
Yeah,
I'm kind of more of a first. I like the first side maybe slightly more, but I love the second half too. Don't get me wrong.
So I saw the three singles where it used to be Norway and Zebra, and I'm like,
yeah,
those ones, I don't know, those ones just don't like connect with me as much as these other songs.
I don't get how, for me, I don't get how Silver Soul wasn't a single. That song is like unbelievable to me.
Yeah, yeah, it is. But they all and like we were saying. The songs on this album truly are a unit. Yeah. And this is one that, it's such a cliche. Like, it's a great album. You don't skip a single track. You put it on, you listen to them all. We say that a lot. People say that a lot. It's true about this one.
It is, man.
They are all a part of the whole.
Yeah.
And none of the songs sound the same without each other.
Right.
They actually, I think that the songs on this album suffer in isolation.
I do too.
They're missing something that makes the experience of hearing them stronger if you don't hear the other songs around them.
I think it's because it's like a particularly well crafted track list. Like, and I pay attention to that shit.
The sequencing
like,
is
the
genius.
sequencing of the songs in this, like, it really, it's kind of front heavy in that, like, some of the really big songs that are really, really catchy, they like lead with those. And then the ones that are just like way deeper cuts and like maybe more musically kind of intricate or something like that, or maybe more emotionally intricate, kind of come a little bit later. Like you're rewarded by like kind of sticking with it, even if like maybe I think a lot of people's songs are kind of maybe the first like 3 or 4, or 5 actually, the first half. But it's like you're really truly rewarded by like sticking through to the end. And like honestly, man,
all my favorite songs.
yeah. It doesn't surprise me that you like the second half better, because I really do think that like kind of a lot of the more interesting and like kind of deeper songs are on the back half, and that's always kind of the kind of things I think you respond to musically. But to me, man, one of my bigger like takeaways from like listening to this whole thing was that like this album is just overflowing with good ideas, overflowing with good melodies, good ideas, good chord progressions, like to the point where like I had this feeling listening to it where like, did you notice on this album how and I love when bands do this, where it's like there's one chord progression that has one vocal melody on it for the beginning, and then by the end there's actually a second completely different vocal melody, and then maybe they play them over top of each other or something like that. That happens a lot on this album. Or there are instances where and I forget which song it is exactly, where the chords change, but the melody and the words do not. It's amazing. You just get the sense that they were like, we have too many good chord progressions. We don't know if we want to use this one for this song or this one for this song. Let's use them all. Let's just use it all. They're all good ideas. And you wind up having this just like overabundance of just like musical expression in all these like these songs, like kind of refract and reflect each other and themselves. Like even within a song, you have like all these just like amazing parts and ideas. It just feels like overstuffed with, just in the best way of just like they had so much to work with, and they just were like, fuck it, use all of it. Like that's what it feels like to me.
You know, but before we go, just a little anecdote. Like, so,
Sure.
You know, this week we're, you know, the thing that me and Nate do, before we record these episodes, you know, we spend the whole week listening to the album and everything.
Right.
Got it on in the car, got it on at home, got it on in the headphones while we're doing dishes and stuff like that. And, you know, this week there's a moment where my dear life partner, you know, girlfriend, just companion in life, that I cohabitate with as well, Griselda. You know, the other night, she's like having a hard time, you know, like needed a shoulder to cry on. One of those times, one of those nights that we all have, you know. And so she came. I was here in the studio. She came in, you know, just needed someone to talk to and everything. And it turned out it was also one of those times where it's like, you know, there's not really anything to be said. It doesn't really need, you know, there's not really much to talk about beyond what's been said. You just need to just kind of lay there. Just need to just cry for a moment, you know? So we literally, I put on Teen Dream on the speakers in my studio, nice and low, and we just lay it on the floor. And really, there was this moment of, before I put it on, you know, obviously it's like, no, dude, come on. This is way too corny. This is way too, or whatever. Because so much music in a moment like that, in a real emotional moment like that, when someone is having a real moment
Yeah.
and they need something. If you put on some touchy-feely music in that moment, like, there's going to be something in the air which is like, really?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
You're going to ruin it.
You're going to ruin this moment, right?
Or make it worse.
Or make it worse, right? Exactly. By putting on this. And this exposes what I was talking about these emotional cash grab artists.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to name any names, but you know who they are, listener. Where it's disingenuous, emotional stuff that it dishonors the real emotional times that we have in our human lives, people. Okay? And I got to say, I already knew, though, as soon as I had that hesitation, I knew, because I'd already listened to it a few times, you know what? No, this actually is not going to rub anything the wrong way at all.
Might give her some catharsis.
It was, Nate, it was so perfect.
Wow.
For both of us.
Wow.
For each one of us individually and for us as a couple, as a unit. And just the whole album just played through. It was exactly all the emotional, like, vistas and landscapes and locations and places where we needed to be, where she needed to be during that time. Okay?
I'm so touched right now that you're saying this.
And
oh man, that's so cool.
It just speaks to the emotional authenticity that Beach House puts here. This is not false. This is the real deal. And that is cathartic for people, for all of us, for humans to experience. And also too, by the way, sort of a weird thing, because, I wasn't having, I was comforting her. I was, had a little bit more headspace to just kind of ponder other funny topics while I was laying there. I also realized, like, this music is sort of like pan-intimate. It is suitable for any kind of person-to-person intimacy. Because this would be the perfect soundtrack for, like, comforting your life partner when they're, like, grieving. And it is also the perfect soundtrack for, like, a one-night stand. For like a non-committal sexual encounter where two people are having this still intimate moment, but in a totally different context. You know what I mean? This fits both zones and everywhere in between.
Yeah.
Like, it's not only grief music. It's not only sadness music.
Yeah.
And it's not only sex music. Like, it's intimacy.
It's like we said earlier. It's like we said earlier. It's like, if you had to boil it down to one thing, it's like, I guess, melancholic, nostalgic, but there's so much more depth. There's so much more that exists on the spectrum of, like, where this album can hit you emotionally, and it's amazing. It's unbelievable. I'm very touched by that story, by the way. That's fucking beautiful that you guys got to share that together.
Thank you for that gift in our household.
That's awesome.
Nate.
That's awesome. From Beach House.
Beach House.
Yeah.
From our beach house to yours.
Yeah. Cheers to Beach House. That's wonderful. Cheers. And I have no doubt that there are, like, millions of fans across the world who've probably had the exact kind of moments like that. Okay, so with that, I'm going to transition very clunkily to make sure you go to our Patreon.
That's right. If you like what you're hearing, you can hear so much more.
Do you need an emotional, cathartic release story? Go to more. We're going to tell more stories on our Patreon bonus episode.
Once every 10 episodes, mixed in between just a bunch of bull crap.
Mixed into a bunch of stories of us going, like, I don't actually know what shoegaze, what is it called? I don't know what it means. I don't know. What year did this come out? I don't know. I think when I announced we were doing this, I was like, 2012 is when this album came out. Wrong. Like, totally wrong. Just don't know. Anyway, though, okay, we'll for those who patron, we will be continuing at least a little bit our Beach House discussion over on Patreon. Patreon.com/blackmarketdub. We'll have Over there, you can get ad-free episodes of this show. You can get bonus episodes exclusive to Patreon. Over there, we're also a reggae dub duo, much
That's
like
right.
Beach House, much like Mrs. Gregory Isaacs herself, Victoria
Yes.
Legrand. And Alex Galley. We are a reggae
Victoria
duo.
Legregory.
Yeah, Victoria Legrand Isaacs over here.
Yeah.
We are a reggae duo. We go by the moniker Black Market Dub, and we have a shit ton of music over on Bandcamp, blackmarketdub.bandcamp.com. We have vinyl. We have music. We have vinyl and music over there.
Whenever we release an album on vinyl, our patrons get that vinyl for free.
Yeah, all you got to do is send me your address and I'll ship you a record. But yeah, tons of good stuff if you want more Black Market Dub on Bandcamp, and also Patreon as well if you like our video content. Make sure you're following us on Instagram too, and if you want to even support even more of our endeavors, go over to escapehatchrecords.com. That's like the label we're affiliated with. Tons of good stuff. We have probably a dozen great label mates on that record label that I think we would both co-sign basically all their music.
I mean, nothing but great songs coming out of Escape Hatch.
Agreed. This was such a fun episode. I'm really glad we did this one.
Yeah, me too, man.
Yeah, great job, Brandon. And
thank you so much to all of our
viewers.
listeners. Thank you so much to our patrons and our Bandcamp subscribers. We really appreciate you guys' support and just, moral support and financial. You guys are the best and greatest.
Yes.
And anything else that you want to say before I do the thing?
No.
All right. Well, we love you all. And remember, real love, it finds you somewhere with your back to it. So keep an eye out. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Dreamland.